Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic Dashy is under the spotlight yesterday of the anti-cheating community with a clip surfacing a few days ago that some people believe shows indisputable evidence of Dashy using external aim assistance. Dashy responds, saying of course this is not necessarily the case on multiple games actually, but still, can't blame some people for thinking this when Dashy's shots are just this crisp. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Not just Dashy, of course, they can hit great shots here at the Call of Duty world. This is OpTic enjoyed himself the other day when the Modern Warfare 3 beta was still here. There was some controversy though during the beta actually on the visibility in the game. Is it as good as it previously was? And I thought it was interesting actually, a bit of a side-by-side between the new Modern Warfare 3 on the left here and the Modern Warfare 2019 game that came out, well, in 2019, a couple of years ago now. The engine I think might be slightly different. They were using an older version I think of the engine here. As far as I'm concerned, the visibility on these games, despite the fact that Modern Warfare 3 has so much good going for it, if that game had Treyarch, let's say, you know, colors and visibility and design, I think it would be like even better than it looks at the moment. A lot of the features Cellium have got right, but the visibility and the graphics, now I don't really care much for graphics generally. I don't really mind if the game is a bit pixelated. Like when I play CSGO, I play 4x3 on CS2 as it is now, but you know, I play with lower settings as a lot of the pros do, and I don't mind it like that at all. And I look back at games like Black Ops 1 and okay, the graphics might not be fantastic, but it was still a spectacular game. So I don't really mind. The quality of the graphics doesn't really bother me, but the visibility and the contrast does. I think if you just compare these two images here, this is on the right hand side. Okay, sure, it's a blue sky compared to like a cloudy sky, so there isn't quite as much contrast. But you can see even on the weapon itself, the contrast between the black and the blue is just, it's more washed out. The colors are more washed out in this current set of graphics. And I'm sure, like, I'm pretty sure Parasite does a good job of this on his color correction settings on stream. He always cranks up the contrast, cranks up the saturation, and the game just looks way better. Or like the gamma as well, you can change. Just a couple of things like that. If Cellium had changed them automatically in the game, their game would just look better, and it's not a massive deal, but I think to play and to watch, it is, you know, it is at least a factor that makes people not enjoy the game as much as maybe they otherwise would. So that's something that we might see change around over time if Cellium will want to make tweaks to that when the game launches. Just I thought it was an interesting discussion going down over the last day or so about this potential combination. At the end of the season, these are where the numbers lie between HyDra and Shotzzy. Of course, Shotzzy was the 2020 season MVP, HyDra was the 2023 season MVP, 4-time champion, 5-time champion, both world champions, of course, in those two respective years. Many finals appearances, more so for Shotzzy, better average placement, but, and actually HyDra is 4-1 against Shotzzy online, but Shotzzy has the better of him on LAN. So right now, they're very evenly matched, really, in terms of their career. Now, Shotzzy was around for one more year. He started playing in the 2020 season. HyDra came 1 year later when Cold War came around, and sure, HyDra's kind of peak this past season was ridiculous, and I guess people are comparing it to what Shotzzy was doing back in 2020. I would say the HyDra season this time was probably somewhat better, but still, it's well, it's difficult to say which player you would take on your team, I guess. Depends what your team needs as to who you would get. On recent evidence, I would probably say HyDra, but it's going to be interesting to see because they're both on theoretically very good teams for the new season, and it's kind of interesting to see how similar their numbers are in some respects, given they've been on very different teams for the last few years. This also then Parasite, given I mentioned him a couple of seconds ago, looking to team in challenges next season. We'll talk about a little bit more about this actually later on today, because lots of talk about who's going to be in challenges and how they're going to get on. 18 and cracked, he says. So yeah, maybe Parasite looking for some teammates. Now let's talk about this cheating drama that was going down. And honestly, I find this stuff pretty hilarious, but honestly, I can't really blame the guys that thought that Dashy was somewhat dodgy, because I'm not gonna lie, if you didn't know that Dashy was Dashy watching these clips, you would think something was a little bit suspect here, especially if you you know, you aren't used to seeing good players actually play the game. So this was a clip that we saw the other day. You guys probably remember I shared it on screen. Nothing crazy, just some good shots. This was in the beta. Now, this was then spotted yesterday on a subreddit called Streamers Cheating, and this is just hilarious, right? So OK_frosting8756. This, as you can tell, was downvoted because people were like, bruh, this is a pro player. Like, this guy's, you know, won a couple of championships in his career. He ain't cheated, dog. But, yeah, so people obviously kind of clouding on him a little bit. But nonetheless, I thought this is pretty funny. Sus snaps / knowing where everyone is in the beta. A friend of mine sent me this clip on Twitter from a pro called Dashy. Here's the link. What are your thoughts? So pretty funny, right? So sus snaps, and to be fair, this is the big one. The other part of like knowing where everybody is, if you watch this clip, I'll share it for you guys now again. You can see everyone on the red dots, right? There's a UAV going across. So it's not like Dashy's using walls to know where people are here. Like, you literally can see everyone on the minimap if you just decided to use your brain. But of course, it's the aiming that was, you know, sending people thinking, wow, maybe this guy's, you know, something dodgy's going on. And like, the community of people that think everyone's cheating, the Vax sucks crowd as it was in the CSGO days, they've always existed. They're always going to continue to exist. But yeah, Dashy was getting caught in the crossfire here because of this pretty nice clip. And honestly, Dashy, even among pros, we know that Dashy kind of shoots different and his shots are just so crisp compared to other pro players. Not like they can't shoot this straight, but yeah, his POV definitely looks different to even other professional players, that I can kind of understand why someone saw this and thought, if they weren't familiar with Dashy, that, damn, this guy knows where everyone is and he simply doesn't miss. Is it possible for a guy to be this good? Turns out it is possible for a guy to be this good. But yeah, this is the clip and these are the sus snaps, you know, involved. So obviously people were clowning on this a fair little bit, right? Even Crowder, the head coach of FaZe, comes out and says, I understand a pro having good aim, but just because he's a pro, he knows where everybody is. I don't understand how he can clearly see people through walls and it's just written off because he's considered a pro. So yeah, Crowder managed to make this one get about 4,000 likes and some people were on board and like they managed to get baited by Crowder's assessments here. So pretty funny. Dashy as well responded. So TJ says that's his sound EQ settings. And TJ's funny, I'm not gonna lie. Like between these two guys, of course, we know that Pro Loot, right, as Dashy says, my boy B-Loot with the hookup, Pro Loot was people called him EQ Loot or whatever, right, a couple of months ago now, because when they started to play these Black Ops 3 chals and these throwback tournaments, there were certain players that were turning on the sound EQ as high as they possibly could, and Pro Loot apparently was the one with, like, the special sound settings that he was dishing out to people so that they could hear absolutely everything, and obviously Dashy and Teach are joking that the reason why Dashy can apparently see through walls, although literally everyone's on the minimap anyway, and if you know spawns, you'll know how to predict some of these rotations that Dashy cuts off here. It's not exactly the sound EQ, so yeah, pretty funny. There were even some clips surfacing from back in the like MW2 sniping days where people were calling Dashy suspect a little bit. So, you know, it's not new for Dashy. People think he's cheating and maybe it's not a massive surprise. Even this as well. So Dashy put this clip up from CS2 and here he is with the AK on Inferno. And this guy in the bottom left plank here says, toggle more, because he gets a one tap by Dashy down mid and he thinks Dashy's cheating. Now this clip is if you guys have played a bit of CS2, you'll know this clip's from a few days ago now, because the graphics at the top, the way it says how many players are alive, that's different now on the latest update a few days ago. So it's a little bit of an old clip. And also interesting strat by Dashy here, because he has no money left after buying an AK and body armor. He actually decided to forego getting a helmet and Kevlar and some util with a Galil for instead just getting body armor with an AK, which is pretty risky to do on T side because, you know, one shot from a CT weapon is going to take you out. But, you know, I can't can't blame him for this decision making because he goes mid, gets one. This second shot is disgusting as well. And then, you know, the guy misses his shot, gets the third, gets the fourth, and then closes out the ace as well. So, you know, Dashy just does it on any game. The new Counter-Strike looks really good, and it's a lot of fun. Obviously, we know that Dashy plays a fair bit of Valorant as well, and is pretty good at that game also. So, look, the guy is just ridiculously naturally talented. There's a few players in this category, to be fair. I know that HyDra as well is just insane at CS. There's a few pros that are just literally ridiculous every single game they touch. Dashy is certainly one of those, and it's not just Call of Duty, right? So pretty funny how he was getting called for cheating in COD, which of course he isn't, and then he goes to Counter-Strike and he's still not cheating, and yet people in the chat are saying that this guy's toggling, so Dashy's like, I simply can't escape it anywhere, they think I'm hacking. Now, you know, some pros, well, not exactly pros, but some players do hack. Like, okay, Dashy isn't, obviously, but some players do. Of course, we know that Jimbo was banned during the most recent Challengers World Championship for cheating. Now, the thing is with Jimbo is that he can obviously still shoot straight, at least to a certain degree, and on LAN, we don't believe he was actually hacking on LAN, and let's not forget, he was in the Pro League with the Paris Legion back in the Vanguard season, and I don't imagine that he was hacking then, but for whatever reason, he turned the hacks on during Challengers qualifiers, at least to our understanding, and therefore his account was banned as a result of that when he turned up to the Challengers World Championship a couple of months ago. So, look, it does unfortunately happen. There are some players that will turn this stuff on. Let's be honest here, there are probably a lot of players in Challengers that have or will continue to use cheats. Even I know a lot of you guys said in yesterday's comment section that the classic Priestahh guys, they're playing with Chain, who's been like a ranked play grinder. A lot of you guys were saying that he's been called out for cheating or like he's downloaded the hacks in the past. So it's like, unfortunately, even if players are good, some of them will still resort to these devices. But I think there's probably no pro or even good player that would ever try and use any sort of aim assistance, because it just doesn't really make any sense. If you're good enough, if you just know where they are, that is enough to win, you know what I mean? You don't need aim assistance, right? The idea that Dashy's downloaded the aim hacks to like lock onto targets, that just, even if you were to cheat as a pro player, that's not what you would do, because there's simply no point, and it would be way too blatant, because often these like aim hacks and stuff, they start glitching. If you're actually any good at the game, like unlike some cheaters that will just abuse it for the fun of it, I guess, and steal the anti-cheat for some reason, won't tend to catch them. If you're actually a decent player, you would just have like a tiny little wall hack that you turn on round 11 to give yourself the advantage, and that would be enough. And that's possibly what the likes of Jimbo could have been using. I don't imagine that Jimbo was, you know, aimbotting or anything, or trigger botting or whatever these other alternatives are. If he was doing anything, which it seems like he was, he'd have been having a little bit of a wall hack going on to give him some sort of advantage. So what do you guys think? Dashy exposed? I just think it's pretty funny, this whole thing. And, you know, as I say, I can't exactly blame them for thinking he was hacking in some respects, because here I saw Dashy's gameplay for the first time when I'd only ever been watching, you know, normal casual players in public matches. I'd probably think, damn, like either this guy is insane or something dodgy is going on here. Quickly on Major Maniac, because a player that's been around the league for a long time hasn't really been in the conversation to get back into the Pro League this time around, and as he says, heading back to Dallas, ready to grind every single day on the stream and everything. So, you know, I think it makes sense for the players. This is what Havoc did, right? He was in Florida. He actually turned down the chance to stay on Florida out on their like substitute bench, and he went back to Dallas, bet on himself, and that's worked out pretty well. Just shows like the level of advantage there is to being around the other players and in the same ballpark anyway, internet-wise. This is why I think it's going to be so challenging for those boys on Surge who are potentially going to be based out of Vancouver. They're going to have a tough time in these online qualifiers, there's no doubt about it, and Major Maniac is trying to make sure that doesn't happen to him in his, I guess, Challengers grind at the start of the new season. And just to quickly mention before we close out, in yesterday's video we talked about Kenny's Vanguard Strapberg on what OpTic, Chicago/Dallas, of course they were OpTic Texas, did during that season, and he actually put together, okay, defense 2A, 2B, mid is open and secret as well, and OpTic actually went to find up here a clip of this when they played, for example, Florida, when, as you guys can see, they go 2A, 2B, mid is therefore open, and secret as well, and therefore, you know, here they go, Florida cut through mid, and they actually win the round as a result. So kind of showing that Kenny did have some points that at least some teams were able to use to their advantage. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.